The city throbbed with morning rush, a symphony of horns and hurried footsteps, all blurred by a relentless, drumming rain. Ethan Vance, his worn jacket clinging to him, clutched a slightly damp resume like a lifeline. Every second counted. A vital job interview awaited. But then, a flash of red, a stumble at the intersection, and a sleek, dark truck barreling through a yellow light. A woman, impeccably dressed but suddenly vulnerable, swayed directly into its path. Without a thought, the resume forgotten, Ethan dropped everything. Time seemed to stretch and snap as he lunged. A desperate, powerful shove, sending the woman sprawling to safety. The truck's metallic side grazed his shoulder with a violent jolt as it screamed past. "Are you all right?" Ethan gasped, his voice thick with adrenaline, already kneeling beside her. The woman, Serena Thorne, pale and shaken, managed a weak, "Yes, thank you." The chaos subsided, leaving only the persistent drizzle. Ethan's gaze flickered to his watch, a sharp pang of realization hitting him. Severely late. He stood, his shoulder throbbing faintly. "Just be more careful," he murmured, his voice gentle but firm, before turning to melt into the stream of anonymous faces. Serena, still reeling, watched him go. His resume lay abandoned in a puddle, the ink bleeding, but he didn't look back. She wanted to call out, to ask his name, to properly thank him, but the crowd simply swallowed him whole, leaving her with a bewildering mix of shock, gratitude, and an unshakable curiosity about the selfless stranger. Hours later, the rain had stopped, but a deeper weariness settled upon Ethan Vance as he unlocked the door to his modest apartment. His shoulders sagged, not just from the day's physical toll, but the crushing weight of a lost opportunity. Yet as he stepped inside, a flash of pure joy greeted him. Lily, his 10-year-old daughter, a whirlwind of bright eyes and infectious enthusiasm, launched herself into his arms. "Daddy!" she squealed, her small hug momentarily chasing away the shadows of his day. Ethan managed a tired but genuine smile, returning her embrace. Her warmth was a balm, a reminder of everything he fought for. Later, in the warm glow of their living room, Lily colored at a small table, her brow furrowed in concentration. Ethan sat opposite her, wrestling with the words. I didn't get the job, sweet pea," he finally admitted, his voice soft. Lily's crayon paused. "But why, Daddy?" He explained the moment at the intersection, the woman who needed help. "I couldn't just walk by, Lily. Some things are more important." After a moment of quiet, Lily picked up her crayon. "You always say that, Daddy, about being good." She held up her drawing. 2 stick figures, capes fluttering, labeled. Superheroes. Grua. Ethan's heart swelled, the pang of lost opportunity momentarily eclipsed by a quiet pride. In the plush, silent cabin of her sleek black SUV, Serena Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries, watched the glittering city lights blur past. Her assistant's voice, a steady drone of canceled meetings and rescheduled calls, was merely background noise to the replay looping in her mind. The stranger, the truck, the selfless lunge. His pure, unthinking courage was a stark, almost alien contrast to the calculating world she inhabited. A world where every transaction had a cost, every action a motive. Yet he had simply acted, without thought for himself. A flicker of something long dormant ignited within her, a spark of awe, a quiet gratitude that felt strangely unsettling in its intensity. Suddenly Serena straightened, her steely gaze fixed on nothing but the burgeoning idea in her mind. "Cancel dinner," she commanded, cutting her assistant's schedule short. "And all appointments for tomorrow morning." The assistant paused, pen hovering. "I need you to find every application submitted to Thorne Industries today that didn't make its scheduled interview. Cross-reference them with any incidents reported near Main Street this morning." Her voice was unwavering, laced with a new, potent resolve. "Because I need to find him." The city lights continued to streak by, a blur against her sharp, determined profile. Miles away, the humble scent of reheated pasta filled Ethan's small apartment. He stirred the lukewarm sauce, his mind heavy with the daunting reality of another day without work. Lily, his 10-year-old daughter, sat at the kitchen table, absorbed in her coloring book. "Will you find another job soon, Dad?" she asked, her voice a small, worried whisper. Ethan managed a tired smile. Lily then pushed a fresh drawing across the table. A knight in shining armor, with his face battling a giant labeled problems. "You're bigger than problems, Dad," she declared, her faith unwavering. The next morning, the city hummed with renewed energy. Ethan, despite yesterday's setback, walked Lily to school, exchanging encouraging words before heading to the bus stop. He was determined, a job fair pamphlet clutched in his hand. As the bus approached, a sleek black car, impossibly out of place, glided to a stop beside him. The tinted window slid down, revealing the striking face of the woman he had saved. Her gaze was direct, unwavering. "You?" Ethan managed, utterly stunned. Serena Thorne's voice was calm, authoritative. "Get in. We need to talk." Inside the sleek, silent confines of Serena Thorne's SUV, Ethan felt the plush leather seats almost swallow him whole. The city lights blurred past the tinted windows, a stark contrast to the small, familiar world he usually inhabited. Serena, composed and formidable, turned to him, her gaze unwavering. "You missed an important job interview yesterday, Mr. Vance," she stated, her voice calm but with an undeniable edge of authority. "A very important one, I believe." Ethan's jaw tightened, still reeling from the unexpected encounter. He opened his mouth to explain, but Serena continued. "And because of that, you lost a potentially life-changing opportunity. All to save a stranger." She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle. Then, a subtle shift in her expression, a flicker of something almost akin to awe. "That stranger was me, Serena Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries." Ethan's eyes widened, his mind struggling to grasp the enormity of the revelation. Thorne Industries, the very company he'd hoped to interview with. She had used her immense resources, he realized, to find the man who had dared to put another's life before his own. The disbelief was a physical sensation, tightening his chest. Serena watched the shock register on Ethan's face, a flicker of something akin to satisfaction in her own eyes. The luxurious SUV continued its smooth journey through the city, the world outside a blur of unattainable wealth. "I don't want an interview, Mr. Vance," she declared, cutting through his stunned silence. "I want you at my office tomorrow morning. For a job offer." Ethan's breath hitched. "A job offer?" he managed, his voice barely a whisper. "Why me?" he questioned, his mind racing with doubt. "I don't have the degrees, the experience for a place like Thorne Industries. I'm just a logistics clerk, or I was." He felt the familiar pang of imposter syndrome, a gnawing fear that he wasn't enough. "I'm afraid I'd fail." Serena leaned forward slightly, her gaze piercing. "Loyalty, courage, and sacrifice, Mr. Vance," she said, her voice firm. "Those cannot be taught. Skills can. I saw your true value yesterday, a value more profound than any resume. I will teach you the skills. You already possess the character." Her words, though resolute, offered a strange, unexpected comfort, igniting a fragile spark of hope in Ethan's chest. That evening, the small apartment was filled with an unfamiliar, exhilarating energy. Ethan sat on the worn couch, trying to explain the impossible news to Lily. "A job, sweetheart, at Thorne Industries. The lady from the bus stop." Lily's jaw dropped, her eyes wide with wonder. Then, a squeal of pure delight erupted from her. She bounced on the balls of her feet, an infectious joy radiating from her small frame. "I told you, Dad," she exclaimed, throwing her arms around his neck. "You're bigger than problems. See?" She grinned, her simple faith a powerful balm to his weary soul. Ethan hugged her back tightly, a surge of relief and dawning hope washing over him. The apprehension of the unknown still lingered, but for the first time in a long time he allowed himself to truly smile. The apartment grew quiet, save for the rhythmic hum of the old refrigerator. Ethan lay awake in the dim moonlight, Lily's soft breathing a comforting sound from her room. His mind, however, was anything but quiet. Such an incredible opportunity felt too good to be true, a gift that surely came with a hidden cost. He grappled with self-doubt, the echoes of his past failures whispering in the dark. Could he truly succeed in such a high-stakes, unfamiliar environment? He was just Ethan Vance, a man who fixed things, not a corporate titan. Opportunities like this didn't come without cost, he mused, staring at the ceiling. And something told him this was only the beginning. The next morning, Thorn Industries loomed, a colossal structure of glass and steel that seemed to pierce the very clouds. Ethan, dressed in his cleanest, albeit thrift store, clothes, felt utterly dwarfed. Confident, well-dressed employees flowed through the imposing lobby like a river of success, their designer suits and assured strides highlighting his own self-consciousness. He clutched the strap of his worn messenger bag, feeling every threadbare patch. "Show them who you are, Dad." Lily's whispered words from yesterday echoed in his mind, a small, defiant spark against the overwhelming intimidation. He took a deep breath, stepping further into the gleaming, unfamiliar world. The grand lobby of Thorn Industries hummed with the usual morning bustle. Executives in designer suits, assistants gliding with purpose, the soft murmur of ambition. But then a figure appeared at the top of the sweeping marble staircase, Serena Thorn. Her presence alone commanded attention, but today her gaze was fixed, not on the throngs of employees, but on a single man near the reception desk. "Ethan Vance!" Her voice, clear and authoritative, cut through the corporate chatter, silencing the vast space almost instantly. Every eye in the lobby, from the security guard to the hurried CEO, pivoted to the man in the slightly rumpled, though clean, thrift store suit. A ripple of curiosity and confusion spread through the stunned crowd, their gazes dissecting the unlikeliest of guests. Ethan felt a prickle of apprehension, suddenly the center of an unwanted, intense spotlight. Without a word to anyone else, Serena descended the final steps and strode directly to Ethan, her hand briefly, almost imperceptibly, touching his arm. He felt the weight of hundreds of eyes as she led him, not to a private office, but directly into the gleaming, glass-walled boardroom. Inside, a handful of Thorn Industries' most senior executives sat, their expressions a blend of surprise and thinly veiled skepticism. Serena gestured to the head of the polished table, her usual seat. "Sit," she commanded, her voice firm, though her eyes held a spark of encouragement for Ethan. The executives exchanged disbelieving glances as Ethan, rigid with nervousness, slowly took the seat of power, feeling the full, crushing weight of their collective judgment. The silence was thick, heavy with unspoken questions. Finally, a man with silver hair and a sharp suit, Mr. Davies, cleared his throat. "With all due respect, Miss Thorne," he began, his tone laced with a condescending politeness. "Who is this man, and why is he sitting at the head of our table?" Serena's gaze, however, did not waver from Mr. Davies's. "Mr. Vance," she stated, her voice unwavering, "is the reason I'm standing here alive today, and he represents a new kind of leadership, precisely what our logistics division needs." The executives exchanged another round of disbelieving glances, their skepticism deepening. To them, it seemed, a heroic act was hardly a qualification for corporate leadership. Ethan felt a flush rise to his cheeks, battling the urge to sink into his chair. Mr. Davies, clearly unimpressed by Serena's explanation, leaned forward. "Heroism doesn't guarantee results, Miss Thorne," he countered, his voice dripping with thinly veiled disdain. "We need someone to fix Project Nexus, our most problematic logistics initiative. It's hemorrhaging resources, consistently missing targets, and its complex supply chain is a nightmare of inefficiencies." He gestured to a large screen that flickered to life, displaying a cascade of red numbers and tangled flowcharts, subtly implying that such a task was far beyond Ethan's uncredentialed grasp. Serena turned to Ethan, a silent question in her eyes, a test. Ethan felt the familiar sting of imposter syndrome flare within him, the doubt whispering in his ear. But he met her gaze, and, with a tightening of his jaw, nodded his acceptance. A quiet resolve settled over Ethan. He remembered Lily's simple, unwavering faith, her words about being bigger than problems. He pushed the self-doubt aside, leaned forward in the high-backed chair, and found his voice stronger than he expected. "I may not have fancy degrees," Ethan began, his gaze sweeping over the skeptical faces, "but I know what it's like to make something work with nothing. To find efficiency when every resource is scarce. I've lived where strategy isn't a buzzword, it's survival." He paused, letting his words hang in the air. "And I'll bet that kind of experience is worth something. Here." A murmur went through the room. The executives, momentarily silenced, could not deny the raw, undeniable conviction in his voice. Serena offered a subtle, almost imperceptible nod of approval. As Serena Thorne led Ethan Vance through the sprawling, minimalist expanse of Thorne Industries, past the silent hum of innovation and ambition, a question gnawed at him. He turned to her, his voice quiet amidst the vastness. "Why are you really doing this, Serena?" he asked, the weight of his new reality pressing down. Serena paused, her gaze drifting to the panoramic city view outside her office window. Her usual steely composure softened, a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. "Because yesterday," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "I saw something I haven't seen in years. Humanity." She turned to face him, her expression earnest. "You didn't see a CEO, Ethan. You saw a person worth saving. That reminded me who I used to be before I let this place turn me into just another metric." She trusted him, she realized, to bring that right thing back to the very core of her company. Her act, she now understood, was not just gratitude, but a desperate search for redemption. Weeks melted into a relentless blur for Ethan. He threw himself into Project Nexus, a maelstrom of data, logistics charts, and endless questions. He often worked late, the glow of his monitor illuminating his tired, determined face, poring over every detail until his eyes burned. On the bustling logistics floor, his quiet diligence and practical solutions slowly chipped away at the initial skepticism, earning him grudging, then genuine, respect from the workers. Initial efficiency reports, once a sea of red, began to show promising green shoots. Yet the long hours brought a familiar ache of guilt, a quiet worry about Lily. But her unwavering faith was his anchor. "It's okay, Dad," she'd whispered one night. "We're building something." Meanwhile, Serena Thorne, observing Ethan's human-centric approach, found her own intimidating facade beginning to soften. She offered more genuine smiles, her interactions with employees now laced with a newfound, almost hesitant, warmth. Ethan, despite the tangible progress, still battled the insidious whispers of imposter syndrome. But Lily's words echoed louder. Late one evening, Ethan sat hunched over Project Nexus blueprints at his small apartment table, a tangle of lines and figures that refused to yield a solution to a stubborn bottleneck. Frustration tightened his jaw. Lily, coloring nearby, looked up. "Daddy, why are those lines all squiggly?" she asked, pointing a crayon at the complex diagram. "They don't fit together like my blocks." She then recounted a simple story about sharing her toys with a friend, explaining how if everyone took turns, no one was left out. Her innocent analogy, a child's understanding of how things fit together, struck Ethan like a lightning bolt. He saw it then, not complex algorithms, but the simple human-centric flow of sharing resources. A practical, elegant solution, born from the wisdom of a 10-year-old, illuminated the page. He smiled, a rare, full smile of relief and paternal pride. Hours later, in the dim, quiet expanse of the Thorne Industries office, Serena found Ethan still at his desk, bent over the very blueprints that had once baffled him. The new solution, inspired by Lily, was now meticulously mapped out. A rare moment of vulnerability prompted Serena to speak. "Do you ever regret it, Ethan?" she asked softly, leaning against the doorframe. "Saving me?" The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken history. Ethan looked up, his eyes meeting hers, devoid of any doubt. "Never," he replied, his voice firm. Serena nodded, a profound understanding passing between them. "No," she mused, her gaze distant. "I suppose not. It changed both our lives, didn't it? I was so focused on numbers, on profit margins. I forgot what it meant to be a person. You reminded me." They shared a quiet moment, a silent acknowledgement of the deep, reciprocal impact they'd had on each other. The rescuer and the rescued, bound by an act of pure humanity. Months had passed, a whirlwind of late nights and early mornings for Ethan, but the results were undeniable. Thorne Industries now buzzed with a new energy, fueled by the unveiling of its highly successful logistics system, Ascend. Largely based on Ethan's Project Nexus solutions, bright lights illuminated the launch event stage, where a sea of press, shareholders, and employees buzzed with anticipation. From the front row, Lily Vance beamed, her small hand clutching a miniature flag emblazoned with the Thorne Industries logo. Her father, Ethan, stood beside Serena Thorne, both bathed in the spotlights. Serena stepped forward. Her voice, once sharp and purely authoritative, now carried a warmth that resonated through the grand hall. "Today," she began, "we celebrate innovation, but more than that, we celebrate character." Mr. Ethan Vance, the architect of Ascend, reminded me that true leadership isn't just about metrics or degrees. It's about prioritizing others, about courage, about seeing the human value in every link of the chain. Thunderous applause erupted, a standing ovation that swelled through the room. Ethan, overwhelmed, caught Lily's eye, and her proud smile was his greatest reward. Across the room, even Mr. Davies, the once skeptical executive, was seen nodding slowly, a grudging respect softening his features. "That's my dad!" Lily squealed, her voice lost in the joyful roar, but clearly heard by Ethan, whose heart swelled with an unfamiliar, profound pride. Later, as the crowds dispersed and the city lights began to sparkle against the night sky, Ethan found Serena on a private balcony overlooking the urban sprawl. The air was cool, peaceful. "Thank you, Serena," he said, his voice quiet but sincere. "For everything, for the chance, for believing in me." Serena turned, a soft smile gracing her lips. "Ethan," she replied, her gaze distant, reflecting on her past, "you gave me something first. You reminded me that life is more than numbers, more than profit margins. You saw a person worth saving, not just a CEO. You returned my humanity to me, and I simply returned the favor." The admission hung in the air, a testament to her complete transformation from the ruthless executive she once was. They shared a look of profound mutual respect, an unspoken understanding of how irrevocably their lives had intertwined, each having saved the other in their own way. Hand in hand, Ethan and Lily walked home, their path familiar, comforting. Lily's bright laughter echoed happily in the night, a joyful melody that filled Ethan's soul. He looked down at her, her small hand nestled in his, and a profound sense of peace settled over him. His journey had been about so much more than a job. It was about redemption, about resilience forged in the fires of adversity, and above all, about his daughter's unwavering, unconditional love. He understood now that sometimes the doors that closed were merely redirecting you, pushing you toward unexpected, open ones. True value, he realized, lay not in titles or bank accounts, but in integrity, selflessness, and the quiet strength to do the right thing, even when no one was watching. He squeezed Lily's hand gently, looking up at the vast, glittering city. It no longer felt daunting, but full of possibilities. His heart, once heavy with worry, was now light with hope for their future, a future built on the unseen value of a good heart.